Welcome to Module 3, HR Operations. The HR Operations area of the AP HR exam accounts for 38% of the exam questions. This is the largest functional area on the exam. In this module, we will analyze frequently used HR metrics, talk about policies and procedures which support an organization's overall strategy, focusing on performance analysis and measurement. We'll also describe job analysis methods and job descriptions which support an organization's compensation strategy and employer branding. This also includes understanding FLSA job classifications. If an organization develops and utilizes HR metrics such as time to fill, employee turnover, and employee retention, that organization can grow and be viewed as an employer of choice. Achievement of these metrics can support diversity of thought, experience, skill, and generational inclusion, which enables a team-based approach to performance excellence, cultural awareness, and long-term accountability. We will also analyze health, safety, and security standards used in the workplace. Meeting and exceeding these standards demonstrates that the employer cares about their employees and views the workforce as its greatest asset. Lastly, we will talk about organizational culture and strategy. So let's get started with Module 3. Human resource policies are guidelines on how organizations intend to manage their people. These policies are written statements of the company's standards and objectives, and they cover all areas of employment, including how employees must perform their jobs and interact with each other. Human resource policies serve three major purposes: to reassure employees that they will be treated fairly and objectively, to help managers make rapid and consistent decisions, and to give managers the confidence to resolve problems and defend decisions. In accordance with Title I of the Americans with Disabilities Act, an employer is required to provide reasonable accommodation to qualified individuals with disabilities who are employees or applicants for employment, unless such accommodation would cause the employer an undue hardship. The law requires reasonable accommodation so that employees with disabilities can enjoy the benefits and privileges of employment equal to those enjoyed by similarly situated employees without disabilities. A simple example of a reasonable accommodation would be providing a chair to a cashier who may be unable to stand for long periods of time due to a medical disability. The employee could sit on the chair while fulfilling all the duties of a cashier. In the case of an employee working on an assembly line at the Ford plant, there would be a hardship in providing a chair to the employee on the assembly line, as the chair would need to be designed to fit into the assembly process and could potentially pose a safety hazard with all of the moving parts on the assembly line. The key words here are a reasonable accommodation for the employee, which does not cause an undue hardship on the employer. Here is an example of the all-in-one poster regarding the federal employment regulations. These posters should be visible to all employees and posted in an easily accessible and/or readable location. If the employee is remote, the employer should make these posters available electronically. Check where these posters are within your organization. Are they easily accessible? Are they current? Depending on your city and state, you may have additional posters available to your employees. When an employee does not comply with company policies and procedures, organizations will engage in progressive discipline to correct the employee's behavior. Progressive discipline generally includes a series of increasingly severe penalties for repeated offenses, typically beginning with counseling or coaching. This is a formal conversation between the employer and the employee. The next offense, the second offense, is then a verbal oral reminder which the employer documents. The third offense is a written reminder which the employee signs. The employee is reminded of the previous two conversations regarding the matter. Another written reminder is then generated, which is also known as the final written reminder, which can then lead up to a suspension and termination. Having reviewed some frequent policies and procedures, let's discuss common HR metrics. HR metrics are used to measure the success of an organization. One commonly used HR metric is the cost per hire. This is calculated by taking the total internal and external recruiting costs and dividing them by the total number of hires in a given time frame. Another Another HR metric used by organizations is the first year turnover rate percentage. This is calculated by adding the number of employees who leave after less than a year of employment divided by the number of separations during that same period times 100. A commonly used benchmark for this metric would be at or below 10% for the first year turnover rate. This would mean that the organization would lose 1 employee for every 10 hired within the first year of employment. The time to fill rate is another insightful metric for organizations. This is calculated by subtracting the date the person begins the vacant position from the first day the position becomes vacant. For example, if a position is vacant on March 1st and a new person does not begin the position until April 15th, the time to fill rate is 46 days. The larger the role and the greater the responsibilities, the larger the time to fill rate will be. It may take 46 days to fill a recruiter role, but it may take 120 days to fill a chief HR officer role. Let's switch topics and focus on job descriptions for a moment. A position description should contain the following: the position title, division, location, city, and state, who the position reports to within the organization, who are the direct reports, the FLSA status, such as exempt, no overtime position, or non-exempt, eligible for overtime position, the shift, first, second, or third, Monday to Friday, weekends, etc., a summary of duties, the primary responsibilities, the education, both required and preferred, experience, again, both required and preferred, if there's any special licenses, skills, or credentials, the physical requirements, such as long periods of standing, sitting, watching a monitor, walking long distances, lifting objects of 10 pounds or 50 pounds or more. Environmental requirements, such as is the employee working inside or outside? Are they in extreme hot or cold environments? A cooler or a freezer in a plant or a loud environment as a manufacturing company. Lastly, the travel. Does this position require travel to other locations to visit clients? Is there overnight travel, or is it more than 10% of their time? It's important to have all of these components listed in a well-written position description so the new hire understands the expectations of the position. You don't want your first year turnover rate to be adversely impacted because of the employees leaving due to not knowing overnight travel was required for more than 10% of the time, or that working weekends is a requirement. FLSA job classifications are easily defined as exempt, not eligible for overtime, non-exempt, eligible for overtime, and contractor, which is not an employee and not eligible for overtime or benefits. Exempt employees typically earn $455 per week or more and work full-time, between 30 to 40 hours per week. They may be qualified under the following categories: executive, administrative, professional, outside sales, computer employee, or highly compensated employee. For more details on these classifications, visit www.dol.gov and search for the FLSA job classifications, or use the link shown here. As defined by the World Health Organization, WHO, and restated in the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA guides, occupational health deals with all aspects of health and safety in the workplace and has a strong focus on primary prevention of hazards. The HR practitioner helps the organization create, implement, and maintain policies and procedures and standards for health, safety, and security in the workplace. Health can include an ergonomic workstation or providing an employee kitchen with refrigerator and microwave to enable a healthy lunch without having to leave the office. Safety could include having key card entrances in the workplace, having an emergency preparedness plan, and posting the materials safety data sheets folder in a prominent location. Many employers are also installing portable defibrillators in the workplace for emergencies. Addressing security in the workplace includes the traditional locked doors and having all visitors reporting to the receptionist or the security desk, but it also involves securing digital assets such as data and computer files. This would include employees having secured passwords for computers and cloud-based applications. It would also include software to secure cell or mobile phones in the event a company phone is lost or stolen. Emails are fast becoming a medium hackers use to gain access to an organization's digital assets. Working with IT teams, HR staff can define a process that requires all passwords to be changed by the employee on a quarterly basis. This graphic provides a good definition of organizational culture. Organizational culture is defined as the assumptions and beliefs of employees which drive behavior. This collective behavior of employees determines results within the organization. The results measure performance and indicate if strategic business objectives have been achieved. A culture of diversity and inclusion can lead to employees embracing non-traditional diversity of experience, innovation, and technology. When the culture is defined within the organization's mission and vision, the employees can better support the desired culture, the assumptions and behaviors, which leads to greater employee engagement and satisfaction. So what is organizational strategy? It's how a company must evolve to achieve its goals and objectives, short-term, 12 to 18 months, and long-term, 3 to 5 years. It begins with the organizational design, the ability to design and structure the company to fit the required business model and strategy. Next, we define the organizational capabilities needed to execute the strategy, defining the difference between how the company is now and what the company wishes to become, devising a plan to improve capabilities if the organization is understaffed, creating positions to be filled in order to execute the plan. Next, we establish a best practice platform that helps create a competent and committed workforce. The talent management of an organization is driven by the HR work group. From here, organizational effectiveness is identified when the organization creates a cohesive, integrated group, centrally focused, and achieving desired outcomes. You're building on business practices and capabilities that give the company an edge and deliver results. As you define those practices and capabilities, be sure to always ask the questions, why are we doing this? How does it support the strategic plan, the mission, the vision of the company? This allows you to maintain strategic alignment with the organization's goals. Lastly, once you can measure organizational effectiveness, you can clearly identify the organizational culture. This occurs when you develop a high-performance operating environment that fits the company's standards, values, and needs. Again, this leads to employee satisfaction, engagement, and retention. In closing, HR operations ensures you have the right people in the right positions, in the right environment, doing the right things that lead to exceptional outcomes. Ready to start your activities in Module 3? For this week's activities, begin reading Chapter 3, HR Operations, and Chapter 8, Health, Safety, and Security in our course textbook. Also read the articles on FLSA, FLMA, and equal pay. Watch the video on business management. Don't forget to participate in the online discussions. Remember to read all posts from all of your peers. We learn from each other when we share our thoughts and real-world experiences and how concepts can be applied in the workplace. In this module's assignment, you will create a position description for an HR manager role. Lastly, complete your second self-assessment quiz, 25 questions on HR operations, health, safety, and security. Remember, if you have a question, post it in the questions discussion forum on D2L. Your instructor will reply within 24 hours.